To the channel Voice of Africa with Ibrahim Traoré, we thank you for carrying our message with love and courage. This voice is not just a channel, it is the heartbeat of Africa.
The evening sun bled across the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of gold and fire as Captain Ibrahim Traoré's convoy rumbled down a narrow road outside Ouagadougou. The city was alive, restless, like a beating drum. Motorcycles weaved between carts, their engines coughing smoke. Vendors shouted over one another, voices rough with fatigue, desperate to sell the last of their mangoes and roasted peanuts. The smells of spice, charcoal, and exhaust mingled into one thick breath of the street. Inside the armored car, Ibrahim sat silently. He had just returned from a border village where men and women, with hollow cheeks and weary eyes, had begged him for food and protection. Their words still pressed heavy on his heart. Hunger, fear, hope, all clashing like storm clouds. He leaned back briefly, letting his eyelids fall, if only for a second. But his soldiers' eyes never dulled. They scanned every shadow, every bend in the road. And then he saw it. Under a crooked wooden sign, weathered by sun and time, stood a small mechanic's shop. In its dust-choked yard, a boy, no older than 12, was locked in battle with a wrench nearly as big as his thin arm. His shirt hung in tatters, his shorts stained black with oil. Sweat and dust clung to his skin. He strained against a rusted car frame until the wrench slipped, clattering against the dirt with a metallic echo. "Fool!" the mechanic barked, snapping a filthy rag at him. "Pick it up faster!" The boy flinched, shoulders jerking at the sting of the words, and scrambled to obey. Ibrahim's chest tightened. Something inside him twisted, a flash of memory of his own childhood in the dust. He tapped the bulletproof glass sharply. "Stop the car!" The brakes hissed. Guards shifted uneasily in their seats, exchanging nervous glances. Stopping in a crowded street was a risk. But Ibrahim was already pushing the door open before anyone could object. His boots hit the dirt, dust rising in a halo around him. He walked straight toward the shop, his stride unyielding, eyes locked on the boy. The air inside reeked of gasoline, sweat, and rust. Hammers rang in the background, bolts clattered into tin boxes. Men worked with grim determination. But when Ibrahim entered, the room shifted. Silence rippled through the workers. The boy froze mid-motion, grease smeared across his cheek like war paint. His eyes lifted, uncertain, wide with a fear too old for his age. And in that single glance, Ibrahim saw it, that hollow surrender, the tired weight no child should ever carry. He lowered himself, one knee to the dirt, until his face was level with the boy's. His voice came low, almost gentle, yet edged with fire. "What's your name?" The boy swallowed hard. "Issa," he whispered. "Why are you here, Issa? Shouldn't you be in school?" The boy's eyes flicked nervously toward the mechanic, then back to the ground. His voice was barely audible. "School is finished. No money. My father is gone. My mother sells mangoes. I must work." The mechanic stepped forward quickly, forcing a wide, greasy smile. He bowed slightly, wiping his hands on the rag. "Excellency, forgive him. He is useful here. He learns. He eats. What more can we do? Children must help their families." Ibrahim's head snapped up. His eyes blazed, his voice cut like a blade. "Useful? He is a child, not a tool. His hand should hold a pen, not bleed on bolts." The shop went still. Workers froze, their tools hanging limp. Passers-by outside pressed closer, craning their necks. The air thickened with expectation. Ibrahim turned back to Issa, his gaze softening, but his voice steady. "Tell me, son, do you truly want this life, to bend your back until it breaks? To choke on dust and oil until your childhood is gone?" Issa's lips trembled. His voice cracked like dry wood. "No, but I have no choice." The words cut through the air like a knife. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Even the mechanic's forced smile faltered. Slowly, Ibrahim rose to his full height. The dust around his boots seemed to settle as his voice thundered across the street. "Then hear me now. Every child in Burkina Faso has a choice. And this boy will not die in grease and dust. Not while I live. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Some thought it was theater, a performance staged for effect. Others whispered in awe. But Ibrahim was not done. His eyes fixed on Issa, his hand outstretched like an oath carved in flesh and bone. Issa, come with me. The boy blinked, stunned. His small chest rose and fell rapidly. Me. Yes, you. Issa clutched the wrench tighter, holding it as though it were the only thing tethering him to this world. His voice shook. But my mother, she needs me. She will be angry. Ibrahim's voice softened, carrying the weight of a father's promise. Your mother will not lose you. She will gain a son with books in his hands instead of rust. Trust me, Issa. I will speak to her. The mechanic burst forward, voice desperate now, his mask slipping. Excellency, this is madness. He earns here. If he leaves, who feeds them? Ibrahim's gaze turned cold, like steel drawn from a sheath. His reply was sharp, each word striking like a hammer. If a nation feeds on the labor of its children, it starves its own future. Not this boy. Not today. The boy's hand trembled. Slowly, with hesitation, with fear, but also with a flicker of hope, Issa let the wrench slip from his grasp. His fingers reached upward, trembling, then landed in Ibrahim's palm. Phones lifted, cameras clicked. Whispers spread like wildfire. The president himself, pulling a child from labor, it was unheard of. And as they turned to leave, something fell from Issa's pocket, fluttering to the ground like a discarded leaf. Ibrahim stooped and picked it up. It was a crumpled sketch. Rough, but detailed. A car, carefully drawn, wheels, gears, even a dashboard. A dream etched in pencil lines. You made this? Ibrahim asked, his tone shifting from fire to awe. Issa's cheeks flushed. His voice was shy, trembling, but steady. When no one looks. I like cars. I want to build one. For the first time that day, a rare smile softened Ibrahim's face. He folded the sketch and slipped it into his jacket, his voice carrying quiet conviction. Then you will. Starting today. Then hear me now, Ibrahim's voice thundered, echoing against the walls of the shop. Every child in Burkina Faso has a choice. This boy will not die in grease and dust. Not while I live. Gasps rippled through the street. Some thought it was theater, others whispered in disbelief. But then Ibrahim stretched out his hand. Issa, come with me. The boy blinked, startled. Me. Yes, you. Issa clutched the wrench as though it were an anchor keeping him from drifting into the unknown. His voice shook. But my mother, she needs me. She will be angry. Ibrahim's tone softened, steady and warm. Your mother will not lose you, Issa. She will gain a son with books in his hands instead of rust. Trust me, I will speak to her. The mechanic burst out in protest, desperation sharpening his voice. Excellency, this is madness. He earns here. If he leaves, who feeds them? Ibrahim's gaze turned cold, his words like steel. If a nation feeds on the labor of its children, it starves its own future. Not this boy. Not today. Issa's hand trembled, but slowly, bravely, it slipped into Ibrahim's. Phones lifted, whispers spread like fire. The president himself was pulling a child from labor. It was unheard of. As they walked back toward the convoy, something tumbled from Issa's pocket. Ibrahim bent and picked it up, a crumpled sketch of a car, rough but strikingly detailed. Wheels, gears, a dashboard, a dream captured in pencil lines. You made this? Ibrahim asked, holding the paper gently. Issa's cheeks flushed. When no one looks. I like cars. I want to build one. A rare smile touched Ibrahim's face as he folded the sketch into his jacket. Then you will. Starting today. The convoy rolled on, cutting through the twilight as dusk settled like a heavy cloak over the crowded neighborhood. Street vendors shouted their last desperate sales, their voices carrying over the rattle of carts and the clang of closing stalls. Smoke from cooking fires curled into the air, thick with the scent of roasted corn, fried plantains, and charcoal. Women balanced trays of mangoes on their heads with practiced grace, weaving between barefoot children who darted through narrow alleys chasing laughter before night swallowed the streets. Inside the armored car, Issa sat stiff and trembling, his small body pressed against the leather seat as if the vehicle itself might throw him off. His fingers dug into the cushion, knuckles white. Never before had he ridden in such a machine. Never before had he sat beside a man others called President. The hum of the engine, the chatter of the convoy radios, the way people along the road froze and whispered as the cars passed, all of it pressed down on him, filling him with awe and fear. Ibrahim noticed. He leaned closer, lowering his voice so it carried like calm in the storm. "Do not be afraid, Issa. Tonight we will speak to your mother. Together." Issa swallowed hard, eyes still fixed on the floor. "She will be angry," he whispered, the words brittle with dread. "Then let us listen to her heart," Ibrahim replied gently, "and let her listen to ours." The convoy slowed. The tires crunched against gravel and dust as they turned into a cluster of tin-roofed homes. Doors cracked open. Curtains shifted. Whispers rose through the twilight. When the car stopped, Ibrahim stepped out first, his boots raising small clouds of dirt. He turned and offered his hand to Issa, who hesitated only a moment before sliding out behind him. From one doorway, a woman emerged, hands dripping water from washing mangoes. She froze mid-step. Her eyes locked onto her son standing beside the president of the nation. The basket slid from her arms, mangoes scattering in golden arcs across the ground. "Issa!" she cried, her voice raw, trembling between shock and fear. "Why are you with him?" The street hushed, neighbors leaning from windows, gathering closer. Her words came like blows, charged with desperation. "He should be at work. Do you think I want him to suffer? No, but we need him. Without his hands, we do not eat." Her anguish cut through the air, and murmurs rippled among the onlookers. An old man muttered darkly, "Books do not fill empty stomachs." Another woman shook her head. "Better a child who works than a family that starves." Others nodded grimly, torn between survival and hope. Ibrahim raised his hand, and silence fell. His voice rang steady, yet sharp as steel. "Mother, no child's shoulders were made for such weight. Every coin a child earns today costs him 1,000 tomorrow. Every bolt he tightens in this dust robs him of a dream he might build in the light. Do you want Issa to bend his back until it breaks? Or do you want him to rise, and lift his family with him?" The crowd shifted uneasily. Mothers clutched their sons tighter. Fathers frowned, wrestling with unspoken fears. Her hands trembled, her eyes wet with grief. "And if he fails," she pleaded, "if he leaves the shop and cannot succeed, who will feed us then? Who will carry this burden?" Ibrahim stepped closer, his gaze locking with hers. His voice softened, but carried the weight of stone. "Then hold me accountable. If Issa fails, it will be my failure. But I will not let him fail. I swear it, not as president, but as a father who has seen too many sons lost." Her lips quivered. Tears spilled freely now, tracing lines down her tired cheeks. "Take him," she whispered, voice breaking. "But promise me he will not be forgotten." Ibrahim bowed his head with reverence. "I promise. From tonight, Issa belongs not only to you, but to all of us." A hush spread. For a moment, even the wind stilled. Some neighbors looked skeptical. Others wiped their eyes. And Issa's mother, though torn with fear, let her hand fall to her side, her boy no longer bound to bolts and grease, but stepping into something uncertain, something greater. The next morning, the city awoke to roosters crowing and pots clanging. But for Issa, it was the dawn of a new life. His school uniform was stiff, the fabric unfamiliar against skin used to dust and sweat. His satchel felt strangely light. Inside only 2 notebooks, a stub of a pencil, and carefully tucked between the pages, the same crumpled sketch of a car that Ibrahim had once lifted from the dirt. The school gate loomed before him like a fortress. Children rushed past, laughing, shouting, their polished shoes kicking up dust as if they had always belonged in this place. Issa froze, his heart hammering. Did he belong here? Or had he stepped into a world too far from his reach? Then a voice, calm and steady, cut through his fear. You step into this place, Issa, and you do not step out until you prove you belong. He turned. Ibrahim stood beside him, his hand resting firm on the boy's shoulder. Today, I am not president. Today, I am simply the man who believes in you. Issa swallowed, nodded, and with trembling steps, he walked through the gate. But deep inside, he knew, this was only the beginning. The road ahead was far from easy. From that day forward, Issa's path was not lined with applause or ease. It was carved through ridicule, failure, and doubt. Each morning, he entered the classroom under a cloud of whispers. "Mechanic boy," his classmates jeered, their laughter stinging sharper than any slap. When he stumbled over letters, when numbers blurred into meaningless scratches on the board, the teacher's ruler cracked against the desk. "Learn first. Speak later," the stern voice scolded, leaving Issa's cheeks burning with shame. To many, he was a misfit in polished shoes, a child who belonged under cars, not inside classrooms. But even in his loneliness, light began to find him. Musa, the old custodian with a limp, stopped by one afternoon as Issa sat alone beneath a neem tree. "To turn bolts is easy," Musa whispered, his voice soft but steady. "To turn a life is harder. But harder is not impossible." He pointed to Issa's satchel. "You draw, don't you? Keep drawing. Let your pencil be the tool that frees you." And then came Engineer Awa, sleeves rolled, eyes sharp with fire. She placed a compass and a solar motor on his desk. "Numbers are not stones," she said firmly. "They are music, roads rising, turns bending, weight shared across axles. Listen, and they will sing." For the first time, Issa saw math not as chains but as the hidden rhythm of his sketches. Step by painful step, Issa stumbled forward. By candlelight, his mother sorting mangoes beside him, he labored over letters until they formed words, over numbers until they bent into meaning. Slowly, his notebooks filled, not only with sums and sentences, but with new machines. A pulley to ease his mother's back. A cart to carry water. A lamp to light the stall at night. One afternoon, he wheeled a small cart into class, patched from scraps of wood and tin. On its roof, a tiny solar panel gleamed. Children crowded close as he placed it under the sun. The wheels trembled, then rolled. Gasps filled the room. The boy, mocked as mechanic child, had built something none of them had dared to imagine. Exams came, heavy as mountains. Issa's hands shook, but he did not break. Against every doubt, he rose, first in design, strong in science, holding his ground in reading. When results were posted, his name shone at the top of the board. The whispers changed, no longer sneers, but awe. At the closing ceremony, the courtyard overflowed. Mothers wept openly, fathers nodded with pride, children clapped until their palms burned. His mother stood trembling, her face buried in her hands, tears sliding freely. The headmaster's voice rang out, "This year, we honor the boy who stumbled, who fell, but who refused to stay down. The boy who turned ridicule into respect. Issa." From the crowd, Ibrahim stepped forward. No podium, no fanfare, only the quiet authority of truth. He raised Issa's hand high. When I found him, he was bent under a car, his hands black with grease. Today he holds a notebook, a dream, and a future. Do not call him lucky. Call him determined. If Issa can rise, so can your children. The courtyard roared. Yet Issa, voice trembling but strong, faced them all. "I am not perfect. I still make mistakes. But now I know I can learn. And if I can, so can every child who dares to dream." The applause shook the walls, not for perfection but for possibility. That night, under dim light, Ibrahim slipped Issa's first smudged sketch into a leather folder marked Future Projects. His hand lingered on the rough lines. "Let this remind me," he whispered, "that leadership is not crowns or palaces, but lifting one child high enough that others see the way. And so Issa's story spread, not as myth, not as miracle, but as proof. Proof that poverty can chain a child's hands, but education frees the mind. Proof that a mother's sacrifice, a leader's compassion, and a boy's determination can transform despair into hope. Because true leadership is not measured in wealth or titles, but in how many forgotten children are lifted high enough to walk into the light of their future.